be here with your typical Johnstown story, football into it. Mark Pasquarelli, I can't tell you how grateful I am to you for your comments. I remember vividly all your father and you have done for this city, also for the University of Notre Dame, where when I taught out there, my office was in Pasquarelli Hall. Not everybody gets to live in a hall donated by someone from his hometown. In fact, just the other end of the street. Mayor Yankovic, I'm very happy the city is still under such strong leadership. And Lord knows it needs it, it always needs it. And democracy is always this far away from being lost. And the only thing that holds it together is the faith and the commitment of its people and the strong direction of its leadership. You have to have someone to voice what's in the heart of the people. Congressman Rothfuss, I can't tell you how glad I am to meet you and to see your leadership in this new district. You used to work with the man who's now my boss at Ave Maria University in Florida. We worked together on the faith-based programs of the White House and Homeland Security. I think we're very lucky to have someone of your youth and vigor and so well-spoken to represent us. Jeff, I thought your words were very lovely and showed a real knowledge, inside knowledge of the area. Elizabeth Fishback, thank you very much for bringing the message from the senator. One thing I remember about Johnstown was how busy it was and the noise element. I'm happy to see that's still here. They got to worry when you don't have noise in Johnstown. Pastor Jeffrey, thank you very much for your opening prayers and voicing so well the faith that underlay this city. After all, when we had our flood, we had to remember Noah's. It wasn't the first time in history. Our God, the Jewish and Christian God, is a tough God. And he has suffering in people. Never promised to do otherwise. And so it wasn't outside the bounds to have happen what happened here in Johnstown, except for one thing. A reporter from the Philadelphia paper teletyped home to his editor, "The hand of God reached up and smote Johnstown a devastating blow yesterday," and the editor, shrewdly noticing what is the real news, telegraphed back, "Stop everything else, interview God." We'll come right to the point. I love this city. I am very grateful to it. Johnstown breeds a certain kind of people. Kathleen George, who was here earlier today, magnificent Johnstowner herself, captures that character in her brilliant new novel, The Johnstown Girls, which is available right outside. It's a terrific book. An extraordinary tale of the flood, which we commemorate today, and of the turmoil it left behind in so many thousands of lives, but also of the virtues it brought out in many beautiful lives, and of virtues this city continues to bring out. In my own summary, here's how Miss George defines the character of Johnstown people. Work, work, work. Even when Johnstowners are unemployed, they tend to work. They get remodeling the house or helping their relatives. Persistence, love, sacrifice. Do not ever be surprised at how painful life is. Johnstowners know that. Never, never panic. Hold steady. And We still have a chance. Throw that Hail Mary. Fling it as far as you can. For me, at least, Kathleen George nails it. That's who we are. Focus your memory now. On May 31st, 1889, at 7 minutes after 4 in the afternoon, an enormous roar burst out from Conemaugh Valley up there. Some people thought it was thunder. Just ahead of a 40-foot wall of water that kept tumbling over itself to crush this valley. Within moments, it smacked down right here on the spot where we meet today, the most sacred spot in Johnstown, where after hours of flood, a fire broke out, destroying the lives of who knows how many. Those to that point it seemed to them miraculously survived. In minutes, 2,000 Johnstowners had lost their lives. Then came the long hours of more dying, often in the dark and alone. Next morning, all around where we now sit, lay rubble and acrid smoke from lumber smoldering from the fire that had raged on top of the water the night before. It's hard to believe after all that water, then it'd be hit by fire, too. All around lay smashed up wooden planks as far as eye could see. Not more than a dozen buildings stood erect in this entire basin. Surrounded by these hills, we see all around us. More civilians died here in this valley on that May 31st than on any other day in American history except September 11th, 2001. And some of those died just south of here, in Somerset. More than 90 entire families were wiped out. More than 700 of the dead could not be identified. They lie above us now in Grandview Cemetery, up on the hill, under neat white rows of nameless tombstones. By 1889, the telegraph had been invented and put into worldwide use. Picture cameras, too. The Johnstown flood was the whole world's first internationally shared media event. It was also the first big assignment for Clara Barton's newly founded Red Cross. The decisive Clara Barton, the undeterrable Clara Barton. She made herself a pain in the neck to a lot of people here to help save this city. Sometimes that's what it takes. Johnstowners know that. We've each been a pain in the neck, and that's what it takes. Just across the way behind us, in one of the few standing buildings in the flood's main path, hundreds of frightened people had huddled for safety during the long night of the flood, angry water surging against the building all night. Next morning, surviving leaders of Johnstown met on the flood's edge to establish an emergency government, make strategic assignments like setting up some morgues, divide up responsibilities, and then rush straight to work. By that I mean people all over were at work. Self-government in a sea of disaster. Overnight. Just a day before the flood, on a day like this, bright and sunny, there had been a huge celebration of a Memorial Day. It was a break in the weather. From April through May, the National Weather Service reports that some 50 inches of rain had fallen. Everything in all the mountains around here were soaked. There was no way for the soil to hold any more water. 5 sprightly bands dressed in brilliant, diversely colored uniforms marched happily and noisily down Main Street. Behind the bands, dogs yapped and children clapped and cheered. Behind the bands stomped veterans of the Civil War in Union blue. Just 24 years before, that bloodiest of wars had finally ended. Lads who had served at 22 were now 46, and not yet, too paunchy for their mothballed uniforms. A baseball game had been played between the boys of Johnstown and a visiting team from Pittsburgh. The Pittsburghers won again, dratted. The smells of long barbecuing meats wafted through the air, and mustard, sliced onions. There were lettuce, carrots stored in the dark cellar over the winter, 5 different kinds of potato salad, fresh baked, apple pies, and ethnic cookies of various sorts. That night, just as the 2-month rain had begun to fall again, a variety show from New York, with its gaudy girls and mustachioed men, performed on the indoor stage on Washington Street. Many in the audience, on exiting hours later, held aloft their shoes or lifted high their skirts to avoid the several inches of water already running down the street. All night the rain continued. Since April 1st, according to the National Weather Service, 52 inches had already fallen on Cambria County. Yet during the night of May 30th and most of the 31st, 7 more inches dropped down from the skies in sheets. By daylight on the 31st, some streets were under 3 feet of water. Then later, and some more. You could take a boat all the way out from St. John's, now Cathedral downtown, out to Moxon. Because the water was that deep already before the flood had hit.